call to order the work session meeting of the West Mifflin Area School District on Thursday, November 12th, 2020. The West Mifflin Area School District work session board meeting is held via Zoom, meeting to begin at 7:03 p.m. Roll call.
Ahern.
Here.
Alexandrov. Bennett. Englert.
Here.
Kostelnik.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
Mattis.
Here.
Blazevich.
Here.
And DeCenza.
Here. Takes us down to board secretary, business manager's report.
At this time, it's very brief. Under board of directors, it's recommended the board approve Aiden Blazevich and Corey Sanchez as the student board representatives for the 2021 school year. There's nothing under financing. These two items happen annually. Under C, purchasing, number one is purchasing tax track software to comply with the 2020 Affordable Care Act. And number two is approving a memorandum of understanding with the AIU to participate in the English as a second language joint purchasing effort for translation services. Under D, we have the minutes. E, we have the reports. F, refund is subtracted from expenditures. Invoices, we only have 3 on the agenda thus far. One's for Paul Fisher. This is for Jonathan Hess's bond, which $433.08 of that's reimbursable from the borough, which I've already received a check. We have 2 legal tax services. Under 3, we have phase 2, application 14, payment, bills payable. Under H, we did have an executive session this evening, and we probably will add one before next week's meeting. And that's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Esper. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Esper's report? Matt, did you vet that one candidate for school board secretary?
Thoroughly.
Okay. All right. That takes us to district operations.
All right, under the superintendent's report, A, we have a motion for a special education due process complaint settlement in the amount of $20,000. The student activities as listed was the Veterans Day ceremony, which I will put a plug in. The ROTC program did a very nice job. It was nice to see Mr. Marshall and Mrs. Kostelnik attend. The kids did a wonderful job, and it was nothing but first class event that those gentlemen put on up there. All right, there's nothing for clubs and sponsors, buildings and grounds. We have a few requests, main gym and the auxiliary gym for the boys basketball conditioning, the weight room and batting cages for the baseball conditioning, and the cafeteria for the West Mifflin umpire schools this month.
Mr. Souls, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there an issue with getting the permits for the boys basketball at Homeville?
I don't believe so. I haven't seen any.
You haven't seen anything?
I haven't seen anything.
I had been told by parents that there was concerns and they weren't able to get permits for boys basketball for the youth.
For the rec league, Mrs. Englert?
Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that something that we?
We're not giving outside permits.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and even the ones that you see on there are, questionable with everything going on. We're waiting for direction, in case Mr. Stevenson, we're waiting for the WPIAL for the wrestling and everything, so to make their decision. So, but no outside permits. In fact, we're using the gym at Homeville for a cafeteria right now, so there would be no way anybody would be able to use that anyway. So,
gotcha. If we do close, if a building does close, are the sports in that building? Is practice still going on? Are we still allowing games?
We're still practicing and still games are going on, just as if we were in the remote situation at the beginning of the school year and we let those activities go on.
Okay.
And the same precautions are in place for the students coming in and out of the building as the WPIL with the temperature checks through the trainer and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, then we'll reserve the personnel portion of the agenda for next week. That takes us to all the way to board president's correspondence. There is none at this time. Executive session discussion, we discussed litigation and personnel. Board reports, we'll start with safety and transportation.
Just to let the committee know, we did submit a report to the bus company that we want monthly, and that's dealing with the number of students on the bus, the time it runs, or the mileage it runs with and without students and so forth, just to keep a running track so that we're able to complete the state end of the year audits for the state for transportation and for our reimbursement.
Thank you. Does that cover the monthly bus report under buildings and grounds as well? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. That takes us to finance.
Yes, we received our audit back from the Commonwealth. We have had 2 findings, and I'm sure Mr. Esper is going to want to jump in a little bit here with me as well. Both of our findings are within the transportation area of concern. Along with the audit, it is the district's responsibility that's as part of Act 44 to turn in a written explanation as to what we're doing to rectify the situation and so forth. So we have done that. We've got it ready. This does take the school board president's signature to move forward, but we as a district acknowledges the findings and has implemented steps to rectify the situation. A monthly bus report will be provided that corresponds directly to 1049 and 289 in the E-Trans suite, which is the platform that the state uses to collect that data. All reports will be kept for a period of 7 years as directed by the PCS requirements. District administration will review bus reports monthly for accuracy and billing, student rosters, mileage traveled with and without students. The school board approved all bus drivers on October 22nd during a public meeting. The district has requested that all new drivers' credentials be provided for the board approval as well. The bus company submitted a list of bus drivers, including their license, clearances, and physicals. The school board update policy 818 contracted services in November of 2019 and policy 810.1 school bus drivers and commercial driver policy is being submitted for approval in November of 2020 is our statement back to the state as to how we're going to fix our problems in the transportation.
I think it should be acknowledged that these issues predated you joining our district as well as Mr. Esper and Mr. Solomon. And I appreciate the work you're doing to get us on the right track and taking care and make sure that these issues don't happen again. So thank you very much, Mr. Souls.
You're welcome. That's all for finance unless Mr. Esper has anything.
I do not.
Okay. Athletics.
Under athletics and activities, of course, winter sports start on November 20th. Through our board policy, it does request that any booster group that we have needs to provide financial reports / statements, a list of their officers, and also their bylaws. From what I'm understanding, that has not been followed. I'd like to ask the committee to give approval to put the letter out to request this information from all our booster groups.
What, Mr. Souls, when you ask for their financial reports or statements, what exactly does that look like? Is it just a reconciliation of what they raised and spent throughout the course of their year? Or is it, I mean, it doesn't have to be a formal audit or anything, does it?
The board policy states it's an audit from a CPA.
I'm sorry?
The policy states it has to be an audit from a CPA.
Well, at whose expense?
It would be the booster groups.
I mean, I think that's a little bit outrageous. I mean, some of these booster groups, they don't even exceed into the thousands of dollars of fundraising. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Matta.
Yeah, Mr. DeCenzo, you and I have had a discussion about that. I think that that's excessive. Again, because of the cost, I think what we asked for is a report from them that indicates funds came in, funds went out, those type of things. If the district believes that it's inappropriate, that there's some problem with what is provided, we can look at it internally first. And then if there still needs more documentation, the district can always, have their local, we already have a CPA firm that the district has under retainer. We could have them involved if need be. In my experiences, the majority of times that if there is any type of issue, normally internally we can figure out what the problem is and address it if there is one. So I think if they just provide some type of report from whoever their treasurer is, that it should suffice. And if we need more documentation, we request it at that time to a specific group if we see that there's some issues. But to ask all of them, I think it would be very burdensome. And I think what we would see is some of those type of groups would either disband or stop having those type of fundraisers because it would be too burdensome on them.
Do we have to change the policy then?
Yeah, my recommendation would be that we need to send that policy back to the policy committee for review and modification.
Every booster group should have a treasurer's report, and most of these have not even provided one to these parents. So there should be a treasurer's report every month. And you can do an independent audit. It doesn't have to be through a CPA and cost a lot of money. PTAs do it every year, and most of the other groups, like the band and such, do the same thing. So we can definitely take it.
That's what I'm saying, Ms. Englert, that we should have a process in place that they can provide the information. And if for some reason that information is not sufficient, we can address it at that point. But not to have them doing a CPA, report. I think that's just burdensome.
But then we have to change the policy to reflect that.
That's correct.
That's correct, Ms. Aaron. This policy that I'm referencing is from 2008. This hasn't been changed in 12 years. So this is something that's been in place for over a long period of time.
And I spoke with board members who were there in 2008, and they said they've never received the reports. They never asked for them. And I think this is probably the worst time to go beat up the booster groups for financial statements when they hardly have any money.
Yeah. We'll tell you that they're incapable of fundraising at this point, and they're compiled of parents who volunteer. I don't know what we're trying to uncover or find here, or what information. I applaud those people who volunteer their time and effort into, providing more for the kids. I don't want it to be a stressor on them or them to feel uncomfortable because they have some formal audit that they have to come and stand and explain themselves before this board.
Parents that are involved are not offended by doing the right thing. They're doing it in the first place. So
okay,
that
exactly. I don't think we have an issue in this district.
We do. No. When you talk to the DA and they've investigated our district less than a dozen times at least, then there's something that needs changed and looked at.
Is that knowledge to everybody here? Or is that something personally?
This is as a parent, I've been involved in it numerous times. So this is something that's not offensive to me. I want to make sure our kids are being covered and they're not practicing a whole year and then not getting anything out of it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The kids should benefit from this. I just didn't know what the real meaning behind this was.
The meaning behind this is because I asked for booster information for a group that was formed under the direction of our board when I was not on it. And then it was taken and it was run with and nobody looked into it. So now I'm on here and I want to look at it.
It was not formed under the direction of our board. It was recognized by this board. It is not a school entity. It has no affiliation whatsoever with the school district.
You and Mr. Esper signed the 501(c)(3). So it's definitely involved with our board. And I want to see and make sure, where did the money go? It's all of a sudden it's disappeared and no one wants to check where it is, but it's problematic for me to ask where it went. So whether it was $5 or $100,
I just don't think we should. I don't think we should put all these entities through a formal process. obviously, like we mentioned, it's been in place for 12 years. I've been on this board for 5 now, going on 6, and I've never seen one of those reports. So I don't know. I don't understand the need to all of a sudden put these entities through this process.
It should have been done in the first place. And the majority of these boards already have it in place. So you could go to most of these groups and say, let me see your treasurer's report from last month. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're going to get one. But there's several individuals that are running groups in our district and not doing anything or showing parents anything. So this needs addressed.
I have a question real quick. So when they compile like the treasurer's report that you're saying, Gina,
yes,
would that go to Mr. Esper to look at, and who looks at that at the final?
If it's in the board policy, it could very well go to Mr. Esper after the meeting. They could just email it to him. But if it's also handed out to the parents, and they can say,
I understand. No, my question was, so it would go to Mr. Esper and he would look at it. And if he thought there was a problem, he would send it off. Like Gary said, to a CPA. I'm not following where the...
No, the organization would have to do it.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Ahern, I couldn't understand.
What I said was the organization would have to do something with the CPA, if not.
Yeah.
Not
my understanding,
my question is, it would go to Mr. Esper, right?
I think it should, yes, yearly. Okay. I think it should all go to him.
I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at the policy to make sure it's not restrictive to prevent future organizations from forming, because these are volunteers and parents, and that's a pretty high bar of entry if we have to have an audited financials every year from a CPA. I personally wouldn't want to be involved in a group and running a group that does that. I think we can ease that burden, yet still get the information that we as a district, if we're going to recognize a booster organization, still get the information or have the ability to get the information to make sure that folks are representing the district and are all doing things, prudently and at the level that we would expect them to be doing that at. I think also we want to be careful about adding more work to Mr. Esper about these reports, and maybe that's an annual thing. But I think revisiting the policy is step one. If we have an issue with a specific group, I think that's something to take up with, I think we all have to think about that together and say, is there an investigation or something that we have to do for if we have a specific incident? And I don't know anything about a DA. I don't know anything about any of this stuff, but
me neither.
That concerns me. I just, if those are accusations that are going around, I think this is not the place to hear them for the first time. And I worry about how that might be perceived if it's at all not true or true. I'm just concerned about that.
Gary, could you reach out to Steve's office and ask him to provide this board with a report of any litigation or issues they've had to research? Is that something we can ask for?
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
I just don't want to put more work on people that we have a staff that's already stretched very thinly right now. But I do feel that this policy is past its prime, and we definitely need to take a look at it and make sure that we're not also tying folks' hands who want to do the right thing and volunteer, but we're raising the bar and saying, oh, you have to have an audit. I think I worry about that. So it's actually
that's my point exactly.
It's probably a good thing we bring this up because we can ease the restriction, because it's a restriction. We're just not enforcing it.
Yeah.
Mr. Scholes, would we be able to meet like Monday or Tuesday so we could like revise that policy for next week? We'd be able to add it into some of these policies that you guys have been working on past week.
That policy was not on the list to do anything with, so that's fine. We can change it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, would we be able to just add that to the list of however many we have, and then we can go from there? And
Hey, Johnny, too. I just want to make sure that we define what a booster group is, because I think there might be groups out there that would be worried they would fall under this restriction, but they're not defined as a booster group. I don't know what a booster group is personally. Like,
what would be an example? Like who?
Band boosters
versus like band parents versus football boosters versus all sports organization 403 whatever. I don't know if that's a booster group under the definition of a booster group, or if that's just a nonprofit group. I don't know. We have
Right,
to,
okay, yeah. Maybe booster means that it's affiliated with the school. I don't know if that's why where you get booster from, and I don't know.
we have to.
So yeah, we'll look into that too.
Yeah, it might be in the policy already. I haven't actually looked at the policy verbiage per se, but I'm just saying we'll want to define what a booster group is in that.
Or identify which entities have or which activities or sports have them.
Does every club and sport have a booster group? I don't believe every single one does, right?
I don't believe so.
But I don't want to go tell the girls volleyball team that, well, hey, you guys raised $1,000. Go spend a couple $100 to prove it to us that you didn't steal or whatever. That's it's nickels and dimes that these people bust their butts to raise. And that's there's no CPAs volunteering around here to help these people out. Some of them they keep all their records in a shoebox, and they might be the best records ever. This is the worst time to go mess with kids and parents about something so little when we have so many more important things, and they barely have enough money to do anything.
I agree.
I don't think anybody's messing. I think people are asking questions. They're just looking to get a way to give them an answer. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if there's an organization that's considered affiliated or recognized. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's just making sure that we're doing it in a fair and litigious manner under our policy and I feel like this has uncovered two things. Like, A, we might want more information about this one booster group, and that's fair, and we're allowed to ask for that. B, the policy is written kind of harshly, and I think we need to ease it a little bit.
All right, so Mr. Mattis, we'll get the committee together. We'll look at that next week. Sometime.
Yeah, we could schedule that now if we want to. Gina and Judy, are you guys available Monday or Tuesday?
Monday is the only day I'm available, not Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
It should be fine.
Monday. Well, same time we've been doing it. I think we've been doing 2:30.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Okay. If that works for you guys, Mr. Souls, Mr. Solomon, we're good with that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to ask the committee if we could recommend putting the GSA club on the agenda for approval at the middle school at no cost to the district, and that's going to be sponsored by Mr. Canavy.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. That's all for athletics and activities. Any questions?
Are we, with the fall sport or winter sports approaching, we have set in place our procedures as far as people attending the indoor events, and we have all that ironed out, all the specifications?
We're going to keep it the same as we had at the end of the fall season at 20%. Move forward. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks, though.
Okay.
Do you have a sense for how signups are going, or what interest is like from our teams? And do we have?
I do not. It's still, we'll just work out the time. And they're just building up their rosters. So.
Okay. The pandemic is not trending in a good way. And I'm just curious as to the interest and level of, I guess, risk people are willing to involve themselves in with sports.
We get roster numbers.
I don't need that. I was just wondering if you had it off the top of your head.
No, I don't.
Probably won't know, Matt, more until that November 20th date when the season officially starts.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely, totally unfortunate. We all know that. It's sad.
All right, under technology, we're starting to go through working with Mr. Fort on finding out who has accounts and finding those who are authorized and unauthorized, and starting to remove certain permissions from people, as well as people who are no longer with the district and so forth. So we're looking into all that as far as what's going on our servers and email system and everything. So we want to get all those accounts cleaned up. right, okay. Under the Education Committee, we like to present the curriculum cycle. We emailed that out with the agenda to the board members. As you can see, we put some background information on there, what a curriculum cycle looks like. The philosophy that we believe in is the backwards design process of working with the end in mind. And that is, your overall objective, then working back how you're going to reach that objective. And our curriculum cycle would run over the 6-year period. Would start with math this year and then go through the progression till we get everyone taken care of and get the curriculum updated.
Was this done before?
I don't believe there was a curriculum cycle in place prior to this. Maybe Mr. Solomon would have some insight on that.
No, not to this degree.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. Thank you for starting this.
You're welcome. So if we could put that on, if the committee would recommend, we can add that to the agenda for approval.
I agree.
I agree.
Well, it's the next item I had on here was talk about reentry plans and starting to get ready for the holiday season, but it seems like it come up and bit us. So I think Mr. Solomon and I will be going back to the drawing board here a little bit and monitor our situation until we get through at least November. So we have 2 grants out there right now. The ATSI, that was for the middle school and high school. Received $157,000, and
is that
to assist with the attendance and discipline and through their improvement plans. And the PCCD ESSERS grant, we were awarded $71,850. We're going to use a lot of that to supplement our cleaning as well as some of the other technology issues we may need. And Mr. Esper already spoke of the MOU for the translation services. And that's all I have for curriculum right now. Any questions?
Judy, you had a question?
No, I was just going to ask for the additional targeted support. Is that for all students or is it just for regular education students?
That's per building. That goes by building. So that's the middle school, 6 through 8, and then also the high school students.
But the whole student body, not.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. Okay, last thing we have is policy. And I know we got quite a bit on here. So if we start with policy 008, that was the organizational chart. That was just cleaned up as to what we actually had 2 versions in the district. Now we're just going to try to get it down to 1. And again, I'm not quite sure, maybe Mr. DeCenzo, you can tell me, as we do policy, do we do this over a 2-month period where there's a first reading and a second reading? Or is this a three reading process?
It was never ever explained to me like that. We've never done anything like that in the past. So,
Mr. Matta?
Normally, the process is a 2-reading process. And even some boards look at it that they can do it at a workshop, the first reading, because it doesn't have to be voted on, and then at the regular meeting. So I think that you at least want to have it presented at 2 meetings for we can get any public input that may have over some type of policy.
Very good.
So would everyone be okay with work session, voting meeting, and vote that evening? Is that would be 2 readings?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I might want to recommend each board meeting over 2 months in case we have to edit anything or clean anything up. That gives us a month to get that done instead of just about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I think it would be better to do it a first reading 1 month and then the following meeting the following voting meeting as well, just to give some time. There are times that some of the board members may have not saw the policy until that meeting because they're not on that committee, and they may want to get some input from the community and then take a look at it, give them some time to digest it, and then do it at the next month.
That's, yeah, whatever makes it easier for you guys, Mr. Souls. I mean, so that's fine.
Anything on policy 008 that we have issue with or we want to discuss?
Are we asking the board or are we asking the committee? Is this the policy committee?
This would be the policy committee, then they would recommend to the board or to the agenda.
I don't have anything. We discussed this like last week, I think it was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll move down to policy 103, and that's discrimination, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting students. And it's quite lengthy, and it comes with 2 attachments. The committee recommend we move forward to move this onto the agenda.
I had one question on that, and I had asked you, Mr. Souls, who the compliance officer is and who the Title IX officer is. I just wondered, whenever they have to sign this, who are they?
Those people are usually board approved, and it's usually either the superintendent or the assistant superintendent.
Title IX also?
Yes.
Okay.
Committee recommend we move forward with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Real quick, Mr. Souls, does everyone have a copy of these, or is it just the committee right now that has?
No, the board received all these.
Okay.
As well.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if I'm probably not allowed to ask questions, but I don't know, are these net new policies or if they're current policies, what in them has changed? Like, is there track changes somewhere that I could get a copy of?
Anything, when we send out the policy, anything in bold print is new. And these are new. They're from PSBA. They create these. We go out, we get them, we bring them in, we modify them to what we need them to do, and then we move forward with them. But any of the changes they ever make is the bold print opposed to the normal print.
Okay.
Okay. We also have policy 004, which is also discrimination, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting staff. That follows the same line as 103. So we would ask the committee recommend we put that on for approval.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay, 113, it's special education, and it has 4 attachments. It has 13.1, which is discipline of students with disabilities, 113.2, behavior support, 113.3, screening and evaluation for students with disabilities, and finally, 113.4, confidentiality of special education. I'd like to ask the committee to recommend we put those on the agenda as well.
Yes.
Yes.
The next one we come to is 203, and that is the immunizations and communicable disease. And that was brand new from PSBA. And as you go through these policies, you'll see certain ones that have brackets in front of a statement. Those are optional as to which ones we would add or not add. So under the first authority on the second page, where it says student attending child care group setting located in school, blah, blah, blah. Program or early intervention program operated by the district shall be immunized in accordance with the advisory committee on immunization practices and standards, the ACIP. That would be something I would recommend that we would put into the policy. Then as you go down through the superintendent designee, you see there's an option for number 3 and number 4. And I would recommend we utilize both of those. That there's an annual review of state standards and investigate and recommend to the board district sponsor programs and immunizations that may be warranted to safeguard the health of the school community. And then finally, the person with the responsibility under the superintendent would be the school nurse to manage the immunizations.
Yeah, that's good with me too.
Yes.
Yep.
204 is the policy for attendance. As it's written, we'd ask that it be recommended by the committee to go to the board.
Yes.
Yes.
The next one, 249, which is bullying and cyberbullying. This is one of those policies that have to be updated every year, or at least reviewed every year as per PDE. Again, you see on the first page, bullying means intentional electronic, written, verbal, or physical act of series detected by another student or students. And then we have the parenthesis or the brackets there, and or outside the school setting. Is that something the committee recommends we put on there?
Yes.
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 As we go to the third page, under the guidelines, it says education, the district may or shall. I'd recommend we go with shall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And then underneath there, it's consequences for violation. And I would recommend we check mark all those consequences. Not that they'd all be used, but that's give us some options.
Are those like in a chronological order that like we would go like the first offense to the last offense?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
The consequence would be determined by the action.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean?
If we recommend counseling and therapy, the school district pays for that, right?
Well, we get we could go to mental health. I don't know if we have school-based, but we also, through Mr. Solomon, we got our FBR people
Okay.
come in as well and so forth.
Generally, I thought if we told them they needed it, we had to pay.
Okay. Then that policy I would recommend as is to move forward.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
All right, under the 300s, this is the tobacco and vaping products. And the big change in here is that we are going to make the campuses non-smoking. And we also added our own piece as to the violations on the last page. The first offense would be a written warning and a citation. The second offense would be a 3-day suspension, letter of reprimand, and a citation. The third offense would be a board hearing, letter of reprimand, and a citation. And the third offense, disciplinary can and may include termination.
I just wanted to bring to light to the board. I think we talked about this last year. We were talking about changing the policy. We decided not to, but it was brought to light to the committee that, correct me if I'm wrong, we were the only school district in Allegheny County that was still smoking.
Yes.
So this would just be following the norm of everyone else. And I think Mr. Soul summed it up by saying holding ourselves accountable and showing a good example to the kids, making sure that it's not unfair or fair for one person to be able to smoke and then someone else not being able to smoke. So I also agree with putting this on the agenda.
I agree.
Yes.
Then we're moving to our 810, our school bus drivers and motor vehicle or commercial motor vehicle drivers. And this pertains mostly to the bus drivers as to how we go about business. Under the superintendent or designee on the third page, on the fifth page, superintendent or designee shall provide notice to representatives of employee organizations of availability of this information the board designates. I offered the assistant superintendent as that position.
I'm sorry, where was that again? Is that on page
5.
About the middle of the page.
Okay, right above where it says got. Okay, yep, got it.
So we put the assistant super in there, and then as we move to page 6, 7, on page 7, we will check or where there's brackets, we will go with the terminology under the contract carrier, since we have a contracted service. We're not district-owned buses.
Okay.
And that's the recommendation that we put that on the agenda as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you saying instead of covered driver, contracted?
Correct.
Okay.
Since we have an outside service.
Okay.
Under the 900s, we have a public attendance at school events. And this will address behaviors and some logistics at the our sporting events or activities that we hold within the school. On page 3, I recommend we remove the expressly permitted and designated areas within be located at least 50 feet from the school building and stadium. That's referring to smoking. So I would ask that we remove that part of the policy.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then down under the guidelines on page 3, it starts, there's brackets. Senior citizens who are district residents and are blank years of age or older shall be admitted. That could be a recommendation from the committee as to how you would like to handle senior citizens. I don't know if we have a senior citizens sports card or a punch card.
I think they have a discount membership, don't they, Sandy? Oh, you're muted.
They had gold cards, I know.
They have a gold card, yeah. And I believe it's free. They just have to prove that, I think they have to show their driver's license or something and they get a gold card.
All right, so that's without charge then?
Correct.
Alrighty.
I believe it is.
Then on this next page, it asks the district personnel, and they could be chosen to be admitted to all school events at no charge or at a reduced fee.
Is there anything in there now? Like, do we have, this is brand new?
Most places I've been, they normally don't charge the staff who would come to watch a game or come to an event, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Me too.
Then our last one there is the free passes to a school event will be available to each board member and a guest.
Unnecessary, but yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's good.
Last one is the board will honor athletic passes from all districts that are members of the conference in which teams of the districts compete and honor the passes of this district. So if TJ has a gold pass, we would accept that at our games as well for no fee.
Okay, yeah, I'm good with that.
Me too.
That would be a loss of revenue.
I mean, what happens whenever we go, like, do they recognize us? Or is that like the same thing across?
I don't know their policy to say yes, they would or no, they wouldn't.
I mean, what would you recommend then? Taking that out then, or?
Yeah, I would remove that. That's for our citizens and our taxpayers.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was in there, like we were like looking to recommend adding that too. So
not a problem. Hey, and then there's an attachment included with that, and it's public behavior at school events that goes along with this policy. And also, through the efforts of Mr. Lick and Mr. Stevenson, they came up with our own rules and so forth for our own events that I would like to throw in on that policy as well as being recognized procedures.
Do we still have that contract that some parents or people had to sign whenever they came to sporting events? I know we had something last year. Or was that just like an individual, like specialized thing?
That must have been something special. It's because neither one of those, the athletic director or the principal, didn't have that.
Okay.
Okay. And we okay with that policy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And the last policy is the Title I Family Engagement, and this is 18.1, and this is elementary specific, and it's basically a policy that explains how our elementary schools are going to engage the parents with their Title I funds.
Yep.
You have to fix Clara Barton.
Oh, thank you.
I can't help myself.
Always a teacher.
Absolutely.
Very good, thank you. We'll get that cleaned up. And the last thing, we were gonna ask the committee, or if they want to discuss for another month, the possibility of contracting with PSBA to update our whole policy manual and provide the administrative regulations for a price of $11,300.
Considering the amount of work you put into all of this, I think it's worth the money for you and Joe.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Maybe do you want to just explain to the rest of the board what we talked about, what that actually entails?
PSBA will come in and take all their policies and update them, and we'll get the updated versions. They'll repackage them with our letterhead on it, or our letterhead and school logo, and bring them back to us, and it'll be 000 all the way up to whatever 900s there are, all ready to go. What we'll have to do though is go through, and certain policies that are specific to what we do here or how we operate, we'll have to amend and clean up, and any policy that is different that we have, we'll have to add into that. So there's still a little bit of work, even though if we get them, but however, able to bring our policy manual up to being current with all the policies as they are now. The administrative regulations, they're the backbone of the policies, that if there's the policy on sexual harassment within the administrative regulations, they will actually give you the form that someone would have to fill out to file that complaint. Or if somebody wants to borrow something, they would be able to do that, inventory list and so forth.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
The fact that it's putting the forms there for them and they can access them readily, I think that makes a big difference. I'm sorry, Judy.
No, I was just going to say I'm in agreement.
All right. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. President.
I have a question, Tony. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Deb.
The seniors, how do they obtain a gold card for these sporting events?
Believe they do that through the athletic office.
They would call the athletic office?
I believe so.
Okay, because I know probably a lot of seniors are watching and, might want one.
Can we make them available with whomever's selling tickets, and then they all they have to do is just write down the person's name and look at their driver's license and confirm that they're 60 or 65 or whatever. Make it a little more convenient.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything for committees? All right, solicitors report.
I'm sorry, the computer keeps freezing here a little bit. I apologize. I have no report for public session this evening, Mr. DeCenza.
Thank you. Any old business?
Tony, I have a quick question. Have you ever signed a 501c3 for any booster group related to this district?
I don't believe so, Dave. I'd have to say no. I mean, that was probably 18 months ago or longer, but I don't recall signing. I don't know why I would sign their 501c3 form. I'm not affiliated, or I'm not an officer in that organization, so I don't know. Any other old business? New business?
Yes, Mr. President, I just wanted to let the board know and the handful of members of the public that next week's meeting will be on Zoom. We will not be at the middle school.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business?
Mr. Solomon, I guess one thing that a lot of parents like to know what the heck's going to go on, and if we might have to shut down that school, and I want to just see what your thoughts are on where you think things are going right now, and what we can do to give updates to everybody on a timely basis if, God forbid, we have to shut the whole entire district down.
You're asking me, Mr. Marshall, or Mr. Solomon?
Saul, sorry. I'm asking you, Mr. Souls.
Well, it's and I apologize to the parents. We had to close down the middle school today, and that came late in the day. As far as that goes, it's tough. More and more people are becoming exposed to possible positive cases, in which we have to react and quarantine those people. And then, we're losing students, we're losing staff members. So, we're just going to keep going as is. We're going to utilize the health department. And again, we're going to try to keep everyone's safety in mind as we move forward. But, up until this week, we were going by pretty good at the elementary and the middle school population. It was real. We had discussions about possibly after the Christmas break and coming back, really starting to get back into full swing of starting slow and bringing everybody back. But I think we're going to have to sit back and keep this hybrid in place and see what happens over the next 2 months. I believe the governor or the state came out and had a little press conference tonight or made some statements. So I'm not sure what that's about. But at the rate we're going, I foresee us being shut down at some point between now and Christmas.
Shut down as in remote learning.
Correct. Yeah, closed down. And again, it's we notify the people that are most directly affected. Certain things we can't tell everybody, but we try to put a pretty blanketed notice out there when we do the all calls and so forth. But if something directly happens to your child or to a staff member, those people are notified immediately and told about it. So we're not withholding information, but it sort of falls a little bit under the confidentiality, and we're going to tell those people who need to know, and it's not going to be a widespread communication other than what you get on the all call, which is very vanilla.
Mr. Souls, I appreciate the calls that we've been getting from both you and from the principals. Is there a process that you follow when you when you notify the staff of something like this happening where you have to close the school? Do you shoot them an email, or do you guys do a call to them?
The progression usually goes, the principals will put an email out that I'll also email the staff as well. I let the union president know what's going on as well. We got to notify the bus company. There's quite a few steps we go through to put this plan in place and to make sure everybody's notified. So, but yes, everybody gets notified.
Yeah, I was just curious because it seems like there's confusion, and it seems like other people are finding out before the staff, and I don't want that to happen. If there's a way that we can email the staff beforehand, before the parents,
Well, it's like I said, today was the late one. You know, we really didn't get word of this till probably about 2:45 today. And then we started working on it. And then, you know, of course, the elementary was a little bit earlier than that, but, you know, it still definitely takes time as you're getting statements ready and so forth.
It's a process. I understand. Thank you. No, it's not been easy.
One thing I would be interested, and I don't want to put any more work on anybody's shoulders. You guys are doing a lot already, but just some indicator on a website somewhere so that there's rumor mills out there and people are making up their own numbers and stories. But if we could have the biblical version of the numbers of cases at a macro level, not specific names, not even at the building level, just that says over the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 staff, 3 students presumed positive or positive. That's all. So that anybody out in the public can say, I'm going to go to that page. I want to see what the numbers are over the last 2 weeks in West Mifflin. And that will put a lot of people's minds at ease and also prevent some stories and snowball effect of things happening out in the world with rumors. No, if the numbers on this page aren't any different today, then they haven't changed since yesterday. But if they are different today from yesterday, then that's the difference. That's the uptick. I just feel like we can get in front of or be more proactive about communicating this, because if a family member of a person in a family, doesn't have, has children in elementary school but not in the high school, and there's an incident and call going out in the high school, but there's rumors of an elementary school family member, and then things happen through the grapevine. The next thing you know, nobody knows what the truth is. So I think we should think about exposing these numbers or being able to communicate with the truth, what we know as the truth to be, is on a webpage somewhere, so that we can point to that and say, that's where we are today for the last 2 weeks, and just have a rolling 2-week period. I think that would be helpful. I'm not trying to add work to anybody, but if you would just think about it.
Oh, we can think about that, but again, Ms. Blazevich, a lot of our how we're handling a lot of things is being proactive and quarantining and so forth. There's probably a lot less people infected that have positive cases than there are that we're sending home on a safety concern.
I get that, and I think that's kind of my point. Is I don't know how many people have been asked to quarantine in our school district. I think that's an interesting number for people who are in our community to understand, and why we're having conversations about going potentially back to a remote learning situation. If we said, that number is 85 people, well, I don't know what the number is, like I said, but if it was 85 people, then people can say, wow, that's a lot. And I can understand why the discussion of going back to remote is on the table, because that figure is a lot and it continues to go up, versus, oh, look, that figure is going down and now it's under 10, and we can start to expect to move into more hybrid, more building mode of learning. So I'm just trying to put it out there as a way for us to communicate or use an indicator to people. We're trending in the wrong direction. Here's where we are right now as far as the total number of students in quarantine or staff students in quarantine. And then people can see, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. We're probably going to be ending up back in a remote situation. And it just gives people some information, data to use to understand or expect what's coming. I don't know. It's
a COVID tracker, and they have them in other districts. I know what you're talking about, Matt.
They do. I don't want to add work to anybody, but I also don't want people left to be to wonder. And,
right.
Everything, all the information is going out by building, we just want to know what the total is.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which, just tell us the total number, because we all go to the same stores. We all are in this community and we all live here together. Just tell me what the total is for the district. And I think that would be a good thing to understand, and if it's going in the wrong direction or the right direction.
You can decide if you want to keep your kids home. You can estimate if they're going to end up having to close.
That's correct.
It gives you an idea. Gotcha.
right. Anybody else have anything for new business? Sounds like that's a wrap, guys. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
Meeting adjourned. See you next week.
Yeah.